Nation of Fit in 10. It is day 34, 1 day before the halfway point, if you can believe it. We are just about at that halfway point, and I want to remind you that this is week 5, and this is the week that you will not quit. And I also want to remind you that if you've fallen off the wagon, if you've made some mistakes, just refocus, collect yourself and move forward. All right? It won't necessarily be a perfect journey. But the idea here is to put as many good days in as you can, and not get in this mind frame of thinking, I've messed up enough. What's the point? No, that's not what it's about. Inevitably, you're going to have these points at which you are going to feel somewhat defeated. The key is, like anybody else who's been successful in any endeavor, especially major endeavors, it's to keep going. It's to look at these things that you might consider as, failures, or you may consider as points of, for lack of better words, you might believe that these are signs that you're not cut out for this, but this is not the case. This is just something that everybody goes through. All right, so collect yourself, get back on the horse, and keep moving forward. All right. We've got a good 5 weeks to go. Next scan is happening in, somewhere around 15 days from now. Okay, all right. Let's talk about a little bit about, I read this question yesterday. I'm just going to reread it here quickly. And it goes like this. I saw a TikTok about diet culture, and it made me reflect on the challenge and diet culture. It's hard to formulate this into a question, but I guess I would like you to talk about toxic diet culture and your specific journey with it, if you're comfortable. How do I make sure I keep a healthy relationship with myself and body throughout this process? So, listen, we all care about what we look like. I don't think anybody sits back and says, I really couldn't care less what I look like. I think, and if that's the case, if you can truly be that way, I think it's kudos to you. But I think we all care to some degree what we look like. And this is just part of being human at this day and age. And that's okay. But the idea here is to set some standards, and some standards at least with food intake, and have a happy medium, okay? And a happy medium is important for your health, all right? Happy medium is going to help to obviously change your physical appearance. But a happy medium is also really important for sustainability, right? Happy medium when it comes to your caloric intake and variety of foods. And yes, I'll even say it, I know this was a question yesterday, giving yourself some reward meals. I'm not really big on this during the challenge because, I really want you to get as far as you can in the 70 days. And in order to do this, we really want to kind of just, focus on getting all the right foods in enough quantities, and not have any of these days where we set ourselves back, at least for the 70 days, okay? At least for the 7 days. Okay, so toxic diet culture. All right, well, because you've asked me to speak about my journey in particular, I come from a bodybuilding background. I have some formal education, etc. in this area, but bodybuilding industry is really, really tough because if you had a chance to look through my Instagram feed, it's like entire bodybuilding culture. When I say bodybuilding, it's like, it is bodybuilding, but there are some other categories that are not considered bodybuilding, but are sort of like, you can think of them as softer versions of bodybuilding, okay? But they're all divisions that are based on how you look, all right? So I would say that I'm a little bit skewed in this, in that I've been so entrenched in this for 30 years that I probably have a bit of a skewed view on this. That is maybe not an entirely, accurate view in terms of what is healthy, at least when it comes to me personally. And yeah, certainly I've dealt with this, and it's really, really hard if you're somebody who's been competitive in bodybuilding and you get in very good shape for a contest, and then you don't want to lose that look. But the look that is produced for bodybuilding, or any of these whether it's, then this may not mean a whole lot to you, but they're just different categories. You can think of them as different bodybuilding categories. Things like figure and physique and classic bodybuilding and bikini. All of these things require a person to get into really, really good shape. That just means you're gonna lose body fat, and you want to, at the very least, maintain lean muscle mass, if not try to build some. And you get into a condition that looks amazing on stage and in photos, but it's not something that is really it's certainly not something that's sustainable. All right, so when it comes to things like TikTok and Instagram, or in the early days like Facebook, people are only posting their best. Okay, I don't post. When I posted, and I kind of, if you were to ever look at my Instagram or whatever, if you look back in time in it, you'll see I used to post more about that kind of stuff. I don't anymore. It is really, really hard, because obviously if you're working in the industry, you always want to promote yourself or you want to show yourself when you're at your best. But, let's face it, you can't walk around always at 5% body fat, right? So, I think that there is a bit of a turn in this, that it is talked about more in social media, but still people put out their best, and they will only show their best. And the fact that you see this on a recurring basis can really, really skew the way that you see yourself and what you think you ought to be in terms of your physical appearance. Now, for those of you who aren't, privy to this, this conversation may not mean a whole lot to you, but if you have been, at least exposed to this to some degree, yeah, it's just not realistic. It's not. So you have to kind of, at least in my case, I've always tried to, and still do, allow myself to, what's the best way to put it? Kind of maximize myself in different areas while still maintaining my health. So, for example, I like to try to be as strong as I can, but, I've got to measure that with, how's my body feeling and what am I capable of that day? I can't just keep pushing myself like crazy like I used to when I was younger, because I feel it. And I feel it because I didn't do a balanced training methodology, because I always thought that more was better. And that I can feel that a little bit right now. So, it's allowed me to taper my training back a little bit more, to undulate things to a certain degree with my programming. So there's been a little bit of that. I think just in general, I've been really, really hard on myself. So, it's like, this was not expected. And I think probably we're all like this to some degree, but, you've got to, was not expecting to get emotional about this. You've got to be proud of yourself and be happy with what you've accomplished. In many facets of life, not just this. So, you've really opened up a can of worms here, and I'm going to go off in all kinds of directions. But, the best way that you can look at health and fitness is to think about your health, really, and I mean this. I know it sounds really, really trite, but really think about your health. To me, I realize that, monitoring your food might seem a bit extreme, but it is one great way, and it is a very, very calculated way of knowing exactly where you stand and what you should do. So, it's a great way of determining a happy medium, because you know exactly how much you're having of what. It might seem a bit extreme, as I mentioned, just because you're measuring stuff out and all that kind of stuff. But as I mentioned in the beginning, it gets much easier as you go along. And I'll talk about this at the end of the challenge. just going through these 70 days and measuring out your food and everything, this just allows you to better understand what contains what and what amounts. And then when you leave the challenge, there's different ways to go about, ways to manage your food. But if you are empowered with knowing what foods contain what and roughly what amounts, then you make your future journey with eating much easier. Okay, so again, I'm always going to focus on this happy medium. Coming back to myself here, I've dealt with this notion that it's okay to be 13 or 14% body fat, and that's probably a healthy body fat for myself. Okay, everybody's got a healthier body fat, and you'll kind of just know this just through time with the way that you feel when you train. How good is where do you lie on the stress metric? Like, for example, is your sleep disrupted? Okay, so like my last show that I did, I couldn't sleep more than, this sounds really like I'm lying or I'm making this up. I could not sleep more than, I think the most sleep I ever got one night during my whole prep was, maybe not in the beginning of my prep, but as I got really lean, the last 6 weeks was maybe 3 hours. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I went 6 or 7 weeks, maybe maxing out at 3 hours of sleep per night. Okay, most nights getting an hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't know how I even survived, because now if I go through one night of sleep where I get like 4 or 5 hours, it's like, oh, I'm dead. I'm absolutely dead. Even like 6 or 7, I really need 8. So, I know I'm going off in all directions here. I didn't plan this out or write anything out, but I was going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. You have to be really proud about, whatever accomplishments you've made. You have to look at yourself from the beginning of your journey to where you are today. Whether it's been 5 weeks or it's been, 5 years or it's been, 30 years, right? So, I'm going to talk about this maybe tomorrow more. I'm going to put some points down so I can kind of gather my thoughts a little bit better and not just ramble here. But yeah, it hasn't been, I guess, I don't know. I haven't thought about it that much, to be honest with you. I just kind of do. So, yeah, it's hard. The industry, it's coming from bodybuilding industry, and this is something that I still follow and I love. It's really hard. And you see people when they get out of the industry, it's very difficult some people leave it and they just, like, you would never believe they were a bodybuilder. They competed before. They're just able to kind of let everything go, and they don't even care about their health, which is kind of sad. It is always nice to see people when they leave the industry to sort of, like, you can see they found like a happy balance, and they just kind of they maintain like this healthy lifestyle. And again, that healthy lifestyle is not going to be it's kind of a spectrum, right? You kind of have to find amongst that spectrum of, doing nothing to being extreme. You have to find that point at which, it feels like it's a right balance for yourself, so. All right, let's get to the message of the day. On this day 34. All right. The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Be patient, be humble, keep moving forward, and know that all this hard work, day in, day out, will produce the results that you've been looking for. It's a long message here. Where's the rest of it? Your time is coming. Do not give up. All right? Let me read this one more time. The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Okay? Or perhaps I should say reap the fruit. Be patient, be humble, keep moving forward, and know that all this hard work that you're putting in, day in and day out, will produce the results that you've been looking for, that you've been striving towards. Your time is coming. Do not give up. As I said in the beginning, everything you're doing is not in vain. Okay? It's all making a difference. All right? Believe in yourself. Well, I guess I should just give you my little end saying of the video. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, for the love of God, give some gratitude. And I'll try to recap this maybe in a bit more succinct way tomorrow as we talk more about my personal journey. And maybe I'll dive into it a bit more, okay? Maybe I'll tell you guys some things more specific to my journey. All right, see you guys.